Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, guys. I am Juliana Page. If you're new to the YouTube channel, welcome. You can tell from the topic that we're going to be covering something today that is uncomfortable. So I'm going to talk or share with you today about risking the unfamiliar. And what does that mean? And what does that take? And how can you apply this to your life? And why might that benefit you? Okay, so risking the unfamiliar, I'm talking about usually this has to deal with emotion. So for example, it's often normal or more comfortable to be stressed out if that's your emotional home, if that's what's familiar, if that's what's comfortable, if that's what you've learned to do, you've learned to get stressed out. It's actually more risky and more stressful at times to experience the opposite emotion, to choose joy, right? Or if you're constantly worried about the future or anxious, it's probably more difficult to be content or to be full of faith. It requires more courage. It requires more vulnerability. It requires you tapping into potential that you haven't experienced before. It requires risking the unfamiliar, right? So risking the familiar for the unfamiliar, if that makes sense. So here's what we're going to talk about. There is an awesome quote that kind of summarizes to a T, I believe, what this is about. Life is a dance between what you desire most and what you fear most. Did you get it? Life is a dance between what you desire most and what you fear most. I desire this, but I'm afraid of this. I really want this, but this might happen. And right? We're constantly in this flow, in this dance of I really see, believe, want, right? Vision, but. And we get afraid and we talk ourselves out of things, or we just get in the way, right? We go back to what's comfortable and what's normal. We keep returning to that place rather than risking this familiar for this unfamiliar, for trying on a new emotion, for trying on a new belief system, for trying on a new mindset, for trying on a new experience, for risking whatever is unfamiliar. I'm going to risk what my comfort is so that I can experience what I believe is here. Okay? So I want to talk about this a little bit. A lot of times this requires stepping back from your norm, from your routine, from your usual programming, your usual rhythm of showing up. It requires you stepping back from that and listening to what's in you. All right? So I'm going to take you through a couple of archetypes and giving you an example of how you can do this if this is not something that you feel like you're good at or comes naturally to you. No worries, you can still apply this and you'll see how this works. Okay, so there's actually 4 archetypes that I'm going to take you through. One is sovereign. That could be your king or your queen self. Okay, the self that takes full responsibility for life. All right, the next one is a warrior. It's the one that's bold. It's the one that's courageous. It's the one that chooses to lean in and to show up when it's easiest not to. All right. Then there's the magician, and the magician just kind of has a flow about him or her, right? The magician just trusts God, just trusts what's in him or her, trusts life and opportunities and how they evolve. It's usually more fun and more playful, more free-flowing, right? Seems completely random to somebody that doesn't understand that, right? That's the magician. Then there's also the lover. And the lover could be, you can view this as someone you love speaking to you, but your most loving, most love-directed, love-motivated self, right? So between these 4 archetypes, king, queen, warrior, magician, and lover, you basically can use your board of directors, if you will, to give you wisdom, to tell you what your next steps are. So for example, if you were to do that right now, write down 2 things that each of these versions of you would counsel you with, would tell you, right? So if your king self, if your queen self were speaking to you and giving you wisdom and giving you insight, what would he or she say? Okay, that could be anything, right? It could be keep creating. It could be delegate responsibility. It could be take full responsibility for your life, right? Don't put your power in other people's hands. It could be invest more time in personal development, whatever it is. But what is your sovereign self telling you to do? Your empowered self, okay? Next, what is your warrior self telling you to do? It could be like what I'm talking to you about right now. It could be willing to embrace the opposite emotion than you're accustomed to. Be willing to experience more of who you actually are. It could be show up daily, right? Sometimes that's half the battle, is just showing up, okay? Then what is your magician self telling you, right? Your playful, joyful, in the flow, in the present self telling you. It could literally be that. Stay present, because when you're present, that's when you're open to receiving. That's when you're able to respond to life. That's when you're able to get downloads of wisdom and creativity. It could be spontaneous and enjoy life and enjoy the journey a little bit more, stop and smell the roses kind of a thing. And then what is your lover self telling you? It could be stay connected to love, stay connected and tuned into your power, because when you disconnect with that, whether you're activating more a victim or a savior or a protector, when you're activating these other pieces of you, a lot of times they're more fear-based, right? So maybe it's stay connected to love, stay connected to that most pure form of who you are, or reconnect to that even. And then it could also be, a reminder, an affirmation of something. It's going to be so much better than you can think or imagine. Whatever that thing is that you constantly worry about, maybe that's what your lover self is telling you. So if you do this exercise, you can literally train yourself to risk, right, whatever is familiar for the unfamiliar thing. Your archetypes, right, these different versions of you, you can actually listen to the wisdom that is within you already. You can draw that out. You just have to prompt it and it will come out. And you can use that then to give you confidence, to give you strategy, to give you wisdom as you lean into your next step, right? So for example, if it was delegate to experts, maybe you need more knowledge. Maybe you need more resources. Maybe you need more skills. Well, go invest in those. Go invest in those, right? You don't have to be the one that does everything, right? So just an example. So the challenge today is, how can you really be led more by the version of you that you need in this season? How can you get back to the dance so that, yes, every time a fear comes up, you can acknowledge it, you can be aware of it, but you just get back to the dance. You get back to the flow. You get back to the most pure form of you. You get back to the self that is bold, that is courageous, that takes a risk, that remains in the discomfort, because discomfort is where you grow. And you're either growing or you're dying, in the sense that if you're not learning, if you're not growing, if you're not evolving, you're not progressing, right? So how can you progress in this season? What self can you activate? And what is the wisdom that you're getting from within? Okay, what would it look like? And you can even do a vision exercise where you just block time on your timer on your phone for a few minutes to actually vision, what does it look like for you to embrace the dance of what you desire most? What does that look like if you were to embrace the dance of what you desire most? It probably means you're going to have to risk what is familiar to you for the unfamiliar. It's probably really foreign, right? You might have all these fears about, who are you to do this thing? Why would you do this thing? You don't even know what's in you, who qualified you, or what's even your background that's prepared you for this, right? We're going to have fears. We're going to have lies. We're going to have this critic, right? But it's getting out of your own way. It's risking how you've been programmed so that you can really align and attune yourself to a new rhythm. But you've got to activate it. And how do you activate it? You can't say that you don't know, because you are activating something every day, whether you're intentional about it or not. And if you really desire new results, which I believe you do if you're listening to this video, you've got to be willing to risk the discomfort of something that's unfamiliar. Try it on, flow in it, lean in to that version of you that can attain that vision that you have for your life. Right? That believes that it's far greater than you dare ask, think, or imagine. That is worthy, that is whole, that is confident, that is empowered, that is visionary, that is progressive? What is that self? What would it look like to dance in that self every day rather than this version of you that makes you frustrated, depressed, strung out, right? Just hating life. Like, how can you literally flip the switch? And if that question doesn't work for you, what's at risk if you don't? What's at risk if you don't? If this exercise seems silly, the sillier thing is to stay stuck. And you choose that every day. You decide not to embrace the wonderful new that God has for you. Real talk, real talk. All right. So my encouragement is that you would actually block some time and do this exercise, or really answer these questions and just write the question on paper and let it come out of you. Let the revelation flow through you and see if that doesn't give you your next step or a strategy to move forward. All right. I hope this message blessed you. If this resonated with you, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if this would bless somebody that you know, make sure that you copy the link and you share it. All right. Until next time, you guys, stay blessed.